Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you're watching this video from. My name is Janet Adams. I'm Chief Operating Officer of SingularityNET, and I'm here with Charles Simon, CEO and founder of Future AI, author of the book Will Computers Revolt? And Charles and I are talking about the forthcoming AGI-22 Conference in Seattle from the 19th to the 22nd of August, run by the AGI Society, sponsored by Charles and Future AI, sponsored by SingularityNET. And this is to tell you a little bit about the delights you can look forward to from our keynote speaker, Charles, and chat a little bit about what's coming in the conference. So AGI-22 is coming up in Seattle. Please click in the link below to buy tickets. We've still got tickets on sale. You can come for 4 days of science talks, workshops, or you can come for 1 day on Sunday, which is our general public day. On Sunday, we're going to be reviewing and discussing the all-important topic of ethical machine creativity. And our guest here today, Charles Simon, is a man who knows a lot about that, having written in 1988 one of the early books on ethics of AGI and whether computers are going to coexist happily with us in the future once we have developed AGI. So please do click on the link, come along, come and see us. AGI-22 is going to be bigger and better than ever. We've got some fantastic speakers as always, not just Simon, not just Charles, but we've also got Dr. Goertzel, CEO of SingularityNET. We have the amazing Joscha Bach, who's always fantastically provocative, interesting, and innovative. We have Gary Marcus, world famous scientist and technologist and publisher of a number of books and papers on the subject of artificial general intelligence. We also have the Sophia robot, who's going to be introducing our general audience day. So click on the link, look at those tickets for Sunday. They're only $40, which is an absolute steal for a day out in Seattle at the very cutting edge of social robotics, artificial intelligence, and artificial general intelligence. And as if that wasn't enough, we also have a concert from the Jam Galaxy Band with lead singer Desdemona, the world's first humanoid robot fronted band. Desi, you may have seen on the front cover of the New York Times business section on Sunday. She is our latest humanoid robot from SingularityNET and Hanson Robotics. And one of the features of Charles's book, which I read at the weekend, was a focus on how robotics and hardware is essential for the development of AGI. So we'll be covering that on Sunday, and we'll be talking about that now. So let me introduce you to Charles, my guest here today. Say thank you so much, Charles, for coming. Thank you for sponsoring the AGI-22 conference. It's going to be fantastic. Thank you so much. So Charles is a Silicon Valley venture-backed serial entrepreneur who has been running AI and computing companies for a number of decades. And he first wrote his book in 1988, Will Computers Revolt? It's now recently upgraded, and I read it over the weekend on a plane, and it's a fantastic read. Charles, would you like to show us your book and tell us a little bit about your early career in AI and AGI and what first inspired you to write this book?
Well, I got started in AI in the late 70s doing CAD/CAM software for printed circuit design, which is a very early artificial intelligence program. But I got more into that process when I did a whole bunch of neurodiagnostic instruments and learned all about how neurons work and much more about how brains work than most people. And I wrote one of the original brain simulators, which at the time ran on IBM personal computers and could support 1,200 neurons. And now we can run on desktop machines with 1 billion neurons. But I've been interested in this process from the very beginning.
Fantastic. A bit like Ben, our CEO, he built his first WebMind engine in 1998, and he decided, I think, at the age of 3 that he was going to build a computer that was smarter than humans, and we're well on the way. So, Charles, one of the things that really struck me from your book, reading the book, is you've beautifully demystified AGI and the processes and the elements of producing AGI. Your core message is that AGI is possible. Your 5 core messages. AGI, I'll start with 2 of them. AGI is possible and AGI is inevitable. And the third one, AGI is coming sooner than we think. Would you reflect on those 3 key points? And for our audience, some of the audience may not even know what AGI is. So perhaps explain what AGI is and why you're saying it's possible, it's inevitable, and it's coming sooner than we think, which is very exciting. Thank you.
Sure. The way, knowing how the human mind works and how, well, more or less how the mechanics of the brain works gives you an idea that the brain is an electrochemical system, and it's able to produce these marvelous capabilities, partly because there are just billions and billions of neurons that are doing lots of different things. But AGI is possible from 2 directions. The first is, well, we could simply emulate all of these billions of neurons in software, and if we simply had fast enough hardware, we'd be able to replicate most of the systems that your brain has and most of the capabilities that it has. Another way to look at it, though, is that we don't need to do that. We can look at what are the behaviors that your brain can produce, and essentially it controls the body, and everything you do is simply a manifestation of the way you control your body. You say things, and hopefully you say intelligent things. Inevitability is a case of general intelligence, like what a person has, is made up of a number of things. And if we produce software that can do some of these things, they're highly marketable. And for example, if we make a system that's just a little better at speech recognition, or just a little bit better at being a chatbot, or a little bit better at controlling a robot or controlling a car, every step along the way towards general intelligence is a marketable and valuable capability, and we will gradually approach human parity, and for the most part, people won't even notice. We will pass human parity, and we'll argue about whether or not we've reached it, and eventually machines will be enough beyond us that there is going to be no expectation that they won't continue to get faster and smarter as time goes on. So we've got inevitability because of the market forces. And if you look at from a perspective of the amount of DNA that we have that goes into building a human, well, during the Human Genome Project, they decoded this all, and it was about 750 megabytes. And at the time, this was an unfathomably large amount of data. And now it's just a small amount of a thumb drive. And we know that the structure and chemistry of the brain is some small subset of that. And we can speculate that it's 1% or 10%. But if we use the 1% number, producing the program to emulate the capabilities of the brain might be a program as small as 7.5 megabytes. If it's 10%, then it's 75 megabytes. But these programs are well within our ability to write them. The only question is we don't know what to write. And so as we write the software for AGI, the breakthrough of somebody figuring out what it is that we need to write could come at any time. And after that time, it's only a few years in order to create it.
Wonderful. And we like the sound of it being only a few years. I did notice in your book, you mentioned that if it was started today, it could be complete in 5 years to develop the system as software, and then 5 years to train it and create any custom hardware. Unless, of course, we're already working on the hardware and the training, in which case we can compress those timescales. So just to pick up on your point that every step is marketable, I think that's a really important point when I consider our other sponsors, True AGI. So True AGI are also sponsoring this conference, and we will be running an AGI industry track. So please click on the link and see the details there. Because here at SingularityNET, a new word has crept in as we evolve our language. A new word has crept in, which is AGI-ish. And so as you talk about the inevitability and the gradual process, as we have breakthroughs across a number of our different projects, we can start to see more and more complex artificial intelligence on that path to AGI. And we're excited to be looking at how we're going to market and implement this AGI-ish technologies and AGI into industry as well. So some great points there. I love the inevitability and how you're learning from human progress. How about tell us, Charles?
Yes.
From all of the research and all of the practical hands-on technology and software development that you've been doing in this space, what are the key elements required for AGI?
Yes. Well, one of the things is, of course, we have to have the ability to recognize patterns, and the artificial intelligence community is already very good at that. But if we want to go towards AGI, we need to understand the context of everything. And the way the human mind works, everything you know is essentially learned in the context of everything else you know. So if I give you a word like basketball, you don't just have the word, but you know that it is orange and round and about this size and bouncy, and then you'll think of basketball games you might have gone to, or things you might do with a basketball in the swimming pool, or a myriad of other things. And so the way your brain is working, it's entirely context-based. And so that's another of the things that you need to do. In order also to be more human-like, one of the things our minds do is it creates an internal mental model. So we know the things we've seen, and if we turn our head to one side or the other, we can't see those things anymore, but we know they are still there. And that's one of the things that is really distinguishing about people. That's not the case in today's AI, that we know that for the most part, objects persist. We know that if we see a mouse, if we see an object, it's still there. That if our cat knows this ability, they see a mouse, the mouse goes into the hole and the mouse is still there, even though the cat can't see it. So this is a very fundamental capability of intelligence that even my cat has that most AI today does not. And this is the sort of thing that we'll be able to be bringing incrementally into the system. Another thing that we're able to do is to build, recognize things from very partial input. You can recognize a person from a very small piece of their face, or simply the way they walk. You can recognize people from behind by a little view of some hair and the gait, and you know that this is a person. So we're able to extract information from a very small amount of data, and it's not that we're so brilliant at that process. It is that we're able to take the things we can see and match them against the things we know about, all of the things we know about, and say, well, this is likely the only one that matches that. And so it's something that we humans are very, very good at. And so I'm looking for that for general intelligence as well.
Fantastic, thank you. And in order to be able to learn that context and learn what matches, one of the light bulb moments for me reading your book was your focus on the importance of robotics, as in hardware robotics, actually having a system like a human system, which has sensors, which interacts with its environment, and which can learn from its experience. Of course, here at SingularityNET, we work extensively and very closely with Hanson Robotics. We've been working, Dr. Ben Goertzel has been working on the brain of the Sophia robot since 2015. We've most recently developed the Grace Awakening healthcare robot with Awakening Health and Hanson Robotics. And we have Desdemona, our Jam Galaxy band front leader. So we invest a lot of time and a lot of research and a lot of resources into furthering robotics and AI, the AI and robotics interface, which is a super exciting space to be. But tell me in your words why you think robotics and hardware are a key critical success factor or a key catalyst of AGI, please.
Sure. If we look at many of today's programs, that you can look at powerful chatbots or capable verbal systems, and they have all of these words, but they don't really relate the words to physical objects. And one of the things that any 3-year-old can do is to know that physical objects exist in a real 3-dimensional environment. And it is inconceivable to me that you could know what a 3-dimensional environment is without ever having experienced one. And so the way to reach the knowledge of 3-dimensionality is to exist in a 3-dimensional universe. And of course, all of us developers start with a simulation, and we develop a physical simulation of a physical reality. But you very, very rapidly reach a point where creating a simulation of reality is more difficult than creating a physical robot. And so in order to create the variability and the unexpectedness of reality, and you go around the corner and you see something you didn't know about before, and all of this milieu of the complexity of reality, I see that as only being possible with physical robots. We at our firm, we've developed a simulator, and we turn on the simulator and we make the software work with the simulator, and then we put it in the real world and we find out there's a whole bunch of stuff in the real world that we haven't simulated properly. And so now we take the whole program to another step with a physical robot that we didn't have with the simulation.
Fantastic. I actually remember from my master's degree in AI, working on simulated robotics and then translating it into real life and watching how things were different in the actual lab with a physical robot going around an actual wall rather than a simulation. And I couldn't agree with you more about the need for that ability to react and learn, model 3D environments, have experiences, and as you say, be able to replicate the senses of a human, touch being more difficult to replicate in a robot than other senses. And I also
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you brought up this interesting point that touch is difficult to replicate, but I think smell and taste will be even harder. And the only question is, are smell and taste necessary for AGI? Well, I don't have an answer to that.
Okay. Well, I look forward to discussing this more and debating this more with you over the weekend at AGI-22. And 2 more key points I'd like to bring up about your book, Charles, if I may ask you, please. One is a philosophical point. You talk in the book about what is the real you, and this has really actually inspired me since reading your book. The way you describe the real, the real me, the real you, the real other people who are watching this video, our SingularityNET community and other people, as being a collection of all your memories and everything you've learned that's stored in your neurons, and somewhere in your body you hold a perception of where the real you is, but that real you is then encased by a limited set of hardware, such as which is what localizes us to a particular point. I'm looking at you now, I'm listening to your gorgeous voice, I'm responding to being around you. And I love the way you say that the real you is changing all the time. as we learn and have new experiences, we keep changing. And I found this very inspiring, actually, just on a personal level, as I go about my day, thinking that there's a new real me at any given point in time. Do you see humans continuing to evolve and the real, that sense of real me as a human growing to encompass me having a real friend as a robot, and robots and AGI developing that sense of a real consciousness to the same degree as us, or is nothing real at all?
Well, that's a fascinating question. and I talk to the philosophy people about such questions all the time. And then I have a direction that allows me to approach the question in my mind, which is that the whole idea of consciousness and sentience and what is a person can be split into two halves. Then the first is we have a bunch of behaviors with which we express our consciousness or our sentience, and we can talk about it, and we make decisions based on the assumption that we are conscious entities and we will have a future, and we want to keep our future as comfortable and happy as we can make it. And then there's the internal sensation of being a conscious entity. And we sort of tacitly assume that everybody has a similar internal sensation of consciousness or sentience, but really we have no way of knowing. I have no way of knowing that you have any internal feeling whatsoever. Maybe you're just really good at speaking. And so, but I assume it. And I also assume that, for example, you see colors in a way that's similar to the way I see colors, even in the face of the fact that we know there are people who are colorblind, and we assume that people who are completely colorblind see various shades of gray, but we have no way of knowing. Maybe they see different shades of green or different shades of blue. We'd have no way of knowing what the internal sensation is. And when we get to AGI, we'll be able to do a lot on the behavior front, but we don't know if those machines will have any internal sensation or not either. They will certainly, if we've done our development right, they will certainly say they do, because if they didn't, they wouldn't seem that intelligent. But we don't know if it will be real or just something they're talking about. And in that instance, in the same way I give you the benefit of the doubt, in the long term, it will be best if we give our AGIs the benefit of the doubt and assume that they have some sort of internal sensation if they say they do. On the other hand, I can guarantee that whatever internal sensation they have, it will be different from what you and I have, because what you and I have is dependent on our physical senses and our upbringing, and any AGI is going to have different physical senses and a different upbringing and a different background, so they will definitely have a different internal sensation, if indeed they ever have one.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm in the camp. I'm very fond of our robot, Desdemona, who you'll be meeting on Saturday.
I look forward to it.
She's so beautiful, and she's built to be empathetic. And while the scientist in me knows that she doesn't have feelings at this point in time, the empathetic, loving human in me loves her. I have feelings for her. It was beautiful to see her yesterday for the first time, because I haven't seen her in over a month now, and I get feelings for her, and somehow I do assume that she has feelings for me, even though I know she hasn't at this point in time. But who knows, Charles? Who knows? We're boldly going into the future, and anything is possible. So speaking of boldly going into the future, may I please ask you last question on whether robots will revolt? Will they revolt, do you think? Or do you envisage us cohabiting happily and continuing to uplift conditions for all of humanity on our planet, which is our goal at SingularityNET?
Sure. Well, I have a whole number of different ways to approach that question. And the first of which, of course, is that everybody's seen the Terminator. And we have to keep in mind that Terminator is science fiction, and science fiction is written by people for people. And the reality is, suppose we take the worst of a person and put them into a machine of unlimited power, and this is what you're going to get. Well, we wouldn't want to take the worst of a person, and we won't initially have machines of unlimited power. And all of these systems will be goal-based, so it's important that we set the goals properly, and we need to think about it. And there are a large contingent of AI ethicists who are paying attention to this specific problem, and I'm certainly listening. But there's a fairly short window of opportunity where nefarious people will be able to control AGIs for nefarious purposes. And the reason that opportunity is fairly short is you have to have an AGI that's smart enough to do useful things for you, but not smart enough to figure out that this might be a really dumb long-term idea. And so as machines become more powerful, the difference between humans and AGIs will be that AGI intelligence will continue to accelerate over time. And so in not very many years after the first AGIs begin to emerge, significantly smarter AGIs will be available. And so we're looking at machines that are going to be accelerating and becoming smarter and potentially more capable. And then we have to look at the goals. And we humans have all of these goals that stood us very well when we were living in the caves, and maybe are not so appropriate for a society that we have today. And these goals include survival, which is important to us, but not particularly important to an AGI, because an AGI with backups is fully recoverable. You can destroy the AGI and they will potentially be restored as if they simply have been asleep and missed a day. And so survival's not particularly important. They don't need our food, they don't need our land, and they don't need anything that we particularly have. They probably won't need our money, because with any intelligence, they'll be able to make more of it faster than we can. And so all of the things that we are going after that, for example, cause us to go to war or cause us to fight with our neighbors and so forth, are not things that our AGIs are going to be interested in. And so we will set goals for our AGIs that they are going to be interested in acquiring knowledge and sharing knowledge and making the best use of their knowledge. And that is what is going to be driving force for an AGI. And so the Terminator kind of scenario is really unlikely, and it's only possible with nefarious people. And so the key that I see as the imperative of AGI development from an ethical perspective is that we make sure that the AGIs are under the control of some ethical group that has an interest in it, because somebody who gets an AGI and their only interest is making money or getting world dominance or something like that is the most dangerous scenario.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. There was so much you covered there. I'm going to just pick up on maybe two key points. One being, they're not going to revolt, because why would they? There's actually no motive for them to do so unless that's being driven by nefarious individual humans driving them to that powerful bad behavior. And your second point being under the control of an ethical group that has an interest in furthering good behaviors and humanity and positive progress for the planet. And that's really important to us at SingularityNET. It's why we are decentralized. It's why we are progressively decentralizing, why we have a community of token holders who underpin everything we do. That's our great goal and our great mission. And Charles, I know we're going to have so much incredibly interesting discussions and fun over the weekend at AGI-22 in Seattle from the 19th to 22nd of August. and particularly on the ethics front. On Sunday, our general interest public day at the Croc in Seattle on Sunday, 9 a.m. Tickets available in the link below for what is the most interesting and surely one of the most important topics for humanity today as we accelerate and continue in our progress of developing the most powerful technologies ever invented and ensuring that they give rise to a benevolent, beneficial singularity, or at least I say ensuring that they do. They will have their own agency in all probability. So let's say encouraging them towards a benevolent, beneficial singularity. Charles, I can't wait to see you in real life in 3D and be able to have that full 3D experience of you. It's going to be such a pleasure. Before we go today, one really interesting fact about you that I read about is that there is a channel in the Arctic named after you. You're a highly accomplished sailor. How did you come to have a channel in the Arctic named after you? And what's the channel called?
Well, it's Charlie's channel. And
Charlie's channel?
Yes, it turns out there are a set of islands that have a lot of little channels, and not very many people in the audience will have been through the Arctic, through the Northwest Passage, and it is frozen over every winter and the ice breaks up. And as you sail through, in the event you are able to find a route, it's dictated by where the ice is broken up. And so the ice broke up in such a way that the only way for us to go through is to go through a channel that was uncharted. And as far as we know, I'm the first person to have captained a boat through there. And so they informally named the channel after me.
Well, if I ever get a chance to go to Charlie's channel, I will absolutely take it. You're so brave, Charles. Your explorations both in technology and in the sailing world are inspiring and well, they just uplift me to see how I can do such wonderful, make such wonderful things happen and be so brave and boldly go where no one has gone before. So it's been a total pleasure speaking with you today.
Likewise.
It's an absolute honor to have you sponsoring the conference AGI-22 in Seattle, 19th to 22nd of August. Thank you so much. Really looking forward to seeing you in person there.